My name is Robert, and I've always been the reliable one. The one who remembers every birthday, the one who shows up for every graduation, the one who writes checks when the car breaks down or the rent is late. It's a role I accepted without complaint for decades. Sometimes I wonder if that was my first mistake, making it look too easy, as if it cost me nothing to always be there, always ready with my wallet open and my calendar clear. When my wife Diane passed away 5 years ago after a brief but brutal battle with pancreatic cancer, my 2 children, Michael and Jessica, and my younger sister Patricia became even more important to me. Family was all I had left, I told myself. I poured everything into being there for them, hoping they'd fill the hole in my life that Diane left behind. I never remarried, never even dated. My family became my entire focus outside of work. It wasn't that they were ungrateful exactly. They'd say thank you for the help with the down payment on a new house or the tuition assistance for the grandkids. They'd seem touched when I drove 3 hours to attend a school play or softball game, but there was always a distance, an unspoken assumption that I existed primarily to meet their needs rather than as a person with needs of my own. Still, family is family. I told myself it was normal, that all parents feel taken for granted sometimes. I made excuses for the unreturned calls, the last-minute cancellations, the way conversations always revolved around their problems rather than anything happening in my life. Michael was building his real estate business. Jessica was busy with her teenagers. Patricia was dealing with her husband's health issues. They had legitimate demands on their time, I reasoned. I was retired with nothing but time on my hands. Except I wasn't retired yet. I was still running my accounting firm, still working 50-hour weeks during tax season, still handling client emergencies and staff issues, but somehow, in their eyes, my time wasn't as valuable as theirs. My life wasn't as complicated, as important. As my 60th birthday approached, I decided to do something special. Milestone birthdays should be celebrated, Diane always said. I'd worked hard all my life, built my accounting firm from nothing into a successful business with 30 employees. Now that I was preparing to retire and sell the firm to my protege, I wanted to create lasting memories with the people I loved. The people who, I hoped, loved me back. So, 6 months in advance, I booked a Mediterranean cruise for all of us. 5 cabins, all expenses paid, Jessica and her husband and 2 teenagers, Michael and his girlfriend, Patricia and her husband, even my niece and her boyfriend. I spent weeks researching the perfect cruise line, one with activities for the teenagers and excellent dining for the adults. I put down a substantial deposit and sent them all the information with a note saying this was my birthday gift to myself and to them. The responses were lukewarm at best. Dad, June is really busy for me at work. You know how real estate is in the summer. The kids might have summer activities. I'll have to check the schedule. We'll need to see if Ted can get the time off. But they had 6 months to plan, and this was a significant milestone in my life. I kept telling myself they'd come around, that they'd make it work. I sent reminder emails with excursion options. I offered to help Michael arrange coverage at his office. I told Jessica I'd pay any cancellation fees if her kids' activities conflicted. The responses grew shorter, less frequent. A month before the cruise, I called each of them to finalize details. That's when the excuses really started flowing. Michael suddenly had a huge client meeting that week. Jessica's son now had a baseball tournament that was critical for college scouts. Patricia's husband had a conference he'd forgotten about. I swallowed my disappointment and told them I understood. Life happens, plans change. Maybe we could reschedule for later in the summer when everyone could make it. That would be great, Dad, Jessica said, relief evident in her voice. August might work better for us. Thanks for understanding, Michael added. We'll definitely make it happen later. I hung up feeling deflated but still hopeful. They wanted to celebrate with me, I told myself, just not on the actual date. That was fine. Flexibility is part of being a parent, after all. Then came my actual birthday, June 14th. I woke up early, made coffee, and waited for the calls and texts to start coming in. I wasn't expecting gifts or a big fuss, just acknowledgement, recognition of the day. Morning turned to afternoon, afternoon to evening. I checked my phone constantly, even restarted it to make sure it was working properly. I scrolled through social media, where Jessica had posted pictures of her son's baseball game with the caption, "So proud of my boy." Michael had shared updates about a house he'd just sold. Patricia had checked in at a restaurant with friends, commenting, "Best girls' night ever." Not a single call, not a single text, not even a generic Facebook message. Nothing. By 9 p.m., as I sat alone in my living room with a store-bought slice of cake, something inside me changed. The hurt crystallized into something harder, clearer. This wasn't forgetting to return a call or being late to dinner. This wasn't being busy with genuinely important matters. This was collectively deciding that my milestone birthday, my 60th year on this earth, wasn't worth even 30 seconds of their time. I picked up my phone, but not to call them, not to send a passive-aggressive message asking if they'd forgotten something. Instead, I emailed my travel agent. "Carol," I wrote, "I need to make a change to the Mediterranean booking. Please cancel cabins 2 through 5, keep cabin 1, but I'd like to upgrade it to the best suite available, just for one person." She called me first thing the next morning, concern in her voice. "Robert, are you sure about this? The cancellation fees are substantial." "I'm sure," I said firmly. "My family won't be joining me after all." She didn't pry, just handled the arrangements efficiently. The cancellation fees were indeed substantial, but still significantly less than I would have spent hosting everyone. With the difference, I upgraded to a luxury suite with a private balcony and added several premium excursions I hadn't considered before when thinking about what everyone else might enjoy. The strange thing was, once I made the decision, I felt a sense of liberation. For decades, I'd organized my life around other people's needs and wants. What would make Jessica happy? What would help Michael succeed? What would ease Patricia's burdens? For once, I was thinking solely about what would make me happy. It was a novel sensation, almost intoxicating. 3 days later, I received a text from Jessica. "Hey Dad, meant to call on your birthday, but things have been crazy with Tyler's tournament. Hope it was good. When did you want to talk about rescheduling the cruise?" No apology, no acknowledgement that missing my 60th birthday might have hurt me, just a breezy assumption that I'd be there waiting, ready to accommodate their schedules, no matter how they treated me. I didn't respond immediately. In fact, I waited until the day before my departure, when my suitcase was packed and waiting by the door. Only then did I send a group text to Jessica, Michael, and Patricia. "Thanks for the belated birthday wishes. After not hearing from any of you on the actual day, I decided to make some changes to the cruise plans. I've canceled your cabins and will be going alone. I leave tomorrow. I'll send pictures." The response was immediate and explosive. My phone lit up with calls and texts, ranging from apologetic to indignant. "Dad, you can't be serious. This is completely passive-aggressive. The kids were really looking forward to it." That last one from Jessica almost made me laugh. The kids who'd never once mentioned the trip to me, who had other activities planned for that week, were suddenly devastated? I let the calls go to voicemail and responded to the texts with brief, matter-of-fact replies. I am serious. It's not passive-aggressive to adjust plans when circumstances change. I'm sorry they'll be disappointed. Michael sent a particularly nasty text. "Way to punish everyone because you got your feelings hurt. Real mature, Dad." I stared at those words for a long time. Was that how they saw me? As some emotional child throwing a tantrum? Not as a person who had finally reached his limit after years of being taken for granted. "This isn't about punishment," I replied finally. "It's about recognizing my own worth. Enjoy your summer." Then I silenced my phone and finished packing. The next morning, as I was loading my luggage into a taxi, Jessica and Michael both showed up at my house. I hadn't expected that. Their faces were flushed with a mix of anger and panic. "Dad, this is ridiculous," Jessica said, following me down the driveway. "So we forgot your birthday. It happens. You're acting like a child." There it was again, that dismissal, that framing of my hurt as childish and unreasonable. "It's not just about the birthday," I said, handing my suitcase to the taxi driver. "It's about a pattern that's gone on for years. I show up for you, consistently, without fail, and you can't be bothered to send a text on my 60th birthday." Michael stepped forward, his expression a mixture of frustration and something else, something almost like fear. "Look, we messed up, okay? But canceling the whole trip, that's extreme." "I didn't cancel the trip," I corrected him. "I canceled your part of it. I'm still going, and I'm going to have a wonderful time." "And what, we're just supposed to sit here while you swan around the Mediterranean? Is this some kind of punishment?" Jessica demanded. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The entitled set of her jaw, the indignation in her eyes. When had she become this person? When had I allowed it? "What you do with your summer is entirely up to you," I said calmly. "Just like what I do with mine is up to me, for once." "Mom would be so disappointed in you right now," Jessica said, her voice low and cutting. That was a blow below the belt, and she knew it. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest that came whenever Diane was mentioned, the grief that never quite went away. But I also felt something else. A certainty that Jessica was wrong. "Your mother," I said carefully, "taught me the importance of self-respect. Something I've forgotten over the years, apparently. She'd be disappointed, all right, but not with me." The taxi driver honked, impatient to get moving. "That's my ride. I'll see you both when I get back." As we pulled away, I saw them standing in the driveway, looking shocked that their attempts to make me feel guilty hadn't worked. For the first time in years, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. I'd finally said no. I'd finally put myself first. The cruise itself was magnificent, beyond anything I could have imagined. My suite was spacious and elegant, with a private balcony where I had coffee each morning watching the sunrise over the Mediterranean. I joined excursions to ancient ruins, local wineries, and coastal villages. I dined at the captain's table one evening and made friends with several other travelers, many of whom were also traveling solo. "First time cruising alone?" asked Margaret, a widow from Australia who became my regular dinner companion. "First time doing a lot of things alone," I admitted. "My wife passed away 5 years ago." "Oh," she nodded, understanding. "The first solo trip is the hardest and the most liberating." She was right. After the initial awkwardness of dining alone or joining group activities by myself, I discovered a freedom I hadn't experienced in decades. I could sleep as late as I wanted, choose excursions based solely on my interests, linger over meals without checking if anyone was bored. I could be spontaneous, changing plans on a whim if something more interesting came along. Each day, I posted a single photo to social media, nothing flashy, no pointed captions, just beautiful images. Me smiling on my balcony, a breathtaking sunset over Santorini, an exquisite meal in Naples, new friends raising glasses at dinner. I knew my family was seeing them. The first few days, they continued to text, alternating between guilt trips and anger. "This is so hurtful to the kids. I can't believe you're being this petty. Mom would be so disappointed in how you're acting." That last one, from Jessica again, nearly broke me, but I reminded myself that Diane would have been even more disappointed in how they had treated me, in how I had allowed them to treat me for so long. I responded minimally or not at all. By the 5th day, the messages stopped completely. The silence was palpable, even from thousands of miles away, and it was priceless. For the first time, they were experiencing what it felt like to be ignored, to be an afterthought. I wasn't doing it to punish them. I was doing it because I deserved this time to myself, uninterrupted by their drama and demands. On the 8th day, I received an email from Patricia, the first communication from any of them in 3 days. "Dear Robert," she wrote, more formal than her usual texts, "I've been thinking a lot about what happened with your birthday and the cruise. At first I was angry that you canceled the trip for all of us. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much we've all taken you for granted over the years. You've always been there for us, financially and emotionally. And we've just come to expect it without giving much in return. I'm truly sorry for missing your birthday. It was thoughtless and hurtful. I hope you're enjoying your cruise. The photos look amazing. Love, Patricia." It was the most genuine communication I'd had from my sister in years. I didn't respond immediately, needing time to process my feelings, but later that evening I sent a brief reply. "Thank you for your email, Patricia. Your apology means a lot to me. The cruise has been wonderful, a chance to reflect and recharge. I'd love to tell you all about it when I get back. Love, Robert." On the last night of the cruise, as I packed my suitcase, I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was sadness at the realization that my relationships with my children and sister might never be the same, but there was also an undeniable sense of freedom, of having finally stood up for myself after decades of putting everyone else first. When I arrived home, my house felt different, somehow, quieter, but not in a lonely way. Peaceful. I unpacked, started a load of laundry, and scrolled through the hundreds of photos I'd taken, smiling at the memories. The next day, Patricia was the first to reach out. She came by unannounced, a gift bag in hand. "It's belated, but happy birthday," she said awkwardly when I opened the door. I invited her in and offered coffee. "I'm sorry," she said again as we sat in the living room. "Not just about your birthday, but about everything. We've all taken advantage of your generosity for years." It was the most genuine conversation we'd had in years. I didn't absolve her immediately, some wounds take time to heal, but I appreciated the effort. "I've missed having you in my life," I told her honestly. "The real you, not just the version of you that needs something from me." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I want to do better, be better." Jessica came by a few days later, less apologetic but clearly making an effort. "The cruise looked amazing," she said, scrolling through my photos as we sat at my kitchen table. "I'm sorry we missed it. And I'm sorry we missed your birthday." "Thank you," I said simply. "I said some horrible things," she admitted, not quite meeting my eyes. "About Mom, about you being childish. I was just so shocked that you weren't giving in like you usually do, and that's not a good thing, is it, that I expect you to just take whatever we dish out?" It was the closest thing to self-awareness I'd seen from my daughter in years. "No," I agreed. "It's not a good thing. For any of us." "I want to be someone you want in your life," she said finally. "Not just someone you put up with because I'm your daughter." Michael was the holdout. 2 weeks passed before he called, his voice stiff with residual anger and reluctant remorse. "That was an expensive lesson you taught us, Dad." "It wasn't a lesson," I corrected him. "It was a consequence, and it wasn't about the money, as you well know." He was quiet for a moment. "I've never been good at admitting when I'm wrong," he said finally. "But I was wrong. We all were. And I'm sorry." It wasn't the most heartfelt apology, but from Michael, it was significant. Our family dynamics have shifted since then. They remember my birthday now, but more importantly, they show up in other ways throughout the year. A casual text just to check in, an invitation to dinner without an underlying request for money or help, interest in my life, my plans, my thoughts. I've become more selective about how and where I offer help, and they've become more appreciative when I do. I've learned to say no without guilt, to set boundaries without apology. As for me, I've discovered a new phase of life. I sold my firm and officially retired. I've taken 2 more solo trips, though I've also included family members on occasion, with clear expectations set in advance. I've reconnected with old friends, joined a hiking club, started dating again. Sometimes it takes a dramatic moment to break unhealthy patterns. My 60th birthday turned out to be a turning point in more ways than I could have anticipated, not because of the cruise itself, but because I finally recognized that respect is earned by valuing yourself first. The photos from that trip are framed in my living room now, not as a reminder of what my family missed, but as a testament to what I discovered. It's never too late to set boundaries, to demand reciprocity, to stand in your worth. And sometimes the silence after making a stand is the sweetest sound of all.